Hi class, and welcome to your first 5-minute lesson. For this course, we are going to be doing 5-minute lessons throughout the modules just to give you a little insight on some of the major concepts of each module. Today we're going to be talking about directional terminology. So when we look at the body right here, we notice it's in the anatomical position. The anatomical position means that you're standing erect or nice and tall, your palms are facing forward, your arms are down at your side, and your feet are planted on the ground. So whenever we say we want to be in the anatomical position, we want to look like this guy here. And the reason for that is because if you were to look at any patient charts at various doctors' offices, they're always going to have a picture of this. And that's because they're going to take notes on this body, and then if they need to send it to another doctor, it's going to look exactly the same, and that doctor's going to know what the other doctor's talking about. So it really just helps avoid any confusion within the scientific community. So a few things that I want to talk about here are just the terminology used when describing body parts in relationship to each other. So when we look here, this is the front of the body. So we say this is the anterior side of the body, and I'm just going to put an A right there. So this is the anterior. It means towards the front. So we're looking at the front or anterior portion of the body. Back here is the posterior side of the body. So for example, if we were going to say your nose is anterior compared to the back of your head, because the nose is on the anterior portion of the body. Next, we're going to talk about superior and inferior. So anything that is above is going to be superior. And once again, I'm just going to write an S that signifies superior. Anything below another body part is going to be inferior. Okay? So let's use the nose again as an example. We would say that the nose is superior to the mouth because the nose is above the mouth. So that's what we mean by that. So superior means above, inferior means below. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about medial and lateral, which is our next topic, or our next two words. So I'm going to draw this line through the back of this guy right here, okay? We call that line the midline, and it's just an imaginary line that divides your body into right and left halves, okay? So that's the midline. So when we say something is lateral, we mean it's farther away from this midline, okay? And there's your L for lateral. And if something is medial, it is closer to this midline. So there's the M for medial right there. So for example, let's look at the shoulder blade. So here's your shoulder blade area. We would say that the shoulder blade is medial compared to the wrist because the shoulder blade is closer to the midline compared to the wrist. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and talk about proximal and distal. So proximal refers to the origin of the body, and I'm just drawing this circle right here. This is the origin of the body, kind of right in the middle, probably a little bit lower. I just don't want to mess up my A. But that's like the origin of the body. So for example, let's look at the elbow and let's look at the wrist. We would say that the elbow is proximal to the wrist because it's closer to this origin of the body here. And we would say the wrist is distal because it's farther away from the origin of the body. So there you go. We just talked about 4 sets of terms right there. We talked about anterior being on the front side of the body, posterior being on the back side of the body. We talked about superior meaning above, inferior being below, lateral and medial, lateral being farther away from this midline, medial being closer to the midline, and proximal and distal, proximal being closer to the point of origin of the body, and distal being further away. So I hope that helps you when you're taking your notes and you're doing your medical terminology assignment, and I'll see you next time on 5-minute lessons.